The prison was a place where there was too much violence. That was then the start of me thinking about how do I develop a strategy that would have a positive impact within the prison. Keep the Peace strategy is quite simply changing the language and the narrative around make a prison safer and talking about how do we keep the peace rather than how do we reduce violence. It's just a much more positive use of language. When I first became aware that I was coming to Swinfen Hall as the governor, I was also aware that there were high levels of violence. At the time, I was reading a book called High Conflict, How We Get Trapped and How to Get Out of It. That book talks about conflict situations such as Palestine, but also issues such as gang violence in Los Angeles, neighbourhood disputes, or even marital couples who are in high conflict situations. Reading that book prompted me to come up with the idea of how could we keep the peace rather than how can we reduce violence. I think this initiative will support reducing reoffending and rehabilitation, creating a culture where conflict between people is resolved in a non-violent way, demonstrating that there is another way other than an act of violence to deal with a situation where you become in conflict with somebody else. It's made people think about their futures. It's made people think about how they could live their life differently. It's made people think about the impact of their behaviours on victims and victims' families, but it's also made them think about the impact on themselves. I joined the prison service in 1988 as a prison officer. I served 5 years as a prison officer, 14 years as a PE instructor. In 2006, I got my first governor's role. Swinfen Hall is actually my 9th prison that I've substantively worked in. When I was 14, 15, 16 years of age, just before I started work, I used to get in trouble. So I could have been somebody, as a number of my friends did, ended up in prison. So I think there's an importance about giving people second chances. I was given a second chance, and a third chance, and a fourth chance. Lots of people can end up in prison, and not everyone is a career criminal. Prisoners at Swinfen Hall are going to live next door to somebody. And what motivates me is trying to do what I possibly can to show them that there is a different way to live their life. My job is to protect the public ultimately, to support prisoners to change. And I break that down in that, I try and do what I can to prevent any of my family becoming victims of crime. And that's really how I sort of make sense of it in my world. The Keep the Peace strategy needs to get embedded into, just this is how we do things around here. Staff gaining confidence that peacekeepers, prisoners who are easily identifiable in the prison can make a difference to the safety of the prison. I think that's a cultural shift that needs some developing. Early signs are that staff are really engaging the peacekeepers in helping them resolve conflict and creating a Keep the Peace strategy that creates safe spaces in the prison where we have peace treaties in areas of the prison that allows prisoners to have full access to the suite of things and activities that we've got running in the prison, and they have full access to those things that will create those hooks for change in terms of their rehabilitative journey.